Word. Okay, so welcome everyone to the 2021 End Epilepsy Statewide Virtual Statewide Learning Series. This is the last session that we have put together for this series. We will be doing more in the winter and the spring, so keep your eyes open. So tonight's session is a panel discussion and it's parenting children with epilepsy. So I feel like these speakers are a well-rounded group of individuals that have differing experiences with epilepsy and their degrees to which their children are affected by epilepsy. And so I'm hoping that this will be a good session for anyone to watch that has questions about what it's like to be a parent of a child with epilepsy. So I'm Beth Stivers. I'm the Director of Education at the Epilepsy Foundation of Kentuckiana. We serve individuals affected by epilepsy and their family members. So a lot of the people on this, or everyone on this call, are people that we have worked with in the past that have been involved with the foundation. And we're super happy to have you all on tonight to share your stories. So the first person that's going to be speaking tonight is Laureen Vassil. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away and tell your story, Laureen.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. My name is Laureen Vassil. I have a daughter, Allison, who is 22, who has epilepsy. Allison's epilepsy started when she was about 5 years old. That's when she had her first seizure. And it was tormenting. I can't even describe the feelings that we had way back then. It's been such a long journey, but it's hard. She started having seizures then, and she has never stopped having seizures. So she still has seizures now. Over the years, we have done all the different kinds of medicines that are available. We did the ketogenic diet. We had the VNS implanted in her back in 2004. Her seizure started in January of 2004. So by September of 2004, we had been on this journey for about 9 months, and the seizures were not subsiding. So we went ahead and had the VNS implanted in her, hoping that that would help her. And over the years, I guess you could say it has helped her somewhat. It still does not control her seizures. We don't really know a reason why she's having seizures. We've had the genetic testing done. We have sought out second opinions. We went to the Mayo Clinic back in the fall of 2004 to see if there was anything else that can be done to figure out why she was still having seizures and what we could do. I would say she was not a candidate for surgery then, but she may have been for a certain type of surgery, which I can get to in a minute, but she did not have a focal spot. Her seizures were generalized. She has just a primary generalized seizure disorder. So there wasn't a spot to take out that was causing the seizures. All throughout school, she had just been getting ready to start kindergarten that fall of 2004. All through elementary school, middle school, into high school, she continued to have seizures. We worked with the schools to get her into some special education classes, to get her the resources that she needed. And Allison had a good journey through school. I have to say that, despite all of her seizures. She is developmentally delayed right now. She currently has probably intellectually maybe about 5 or 6 years old, somewhere around there. And it is related to all her seizures and the medications and everything else, that's kind of gone along with her epilepsy. But fast forward, I guess I'm jumping around a little bit. So we did all the medicines, we did the ketogenic diet, we did the VNS, we went to the Mayo Clinic, and just continued on the journey of medicines. Surgery was brought up to us to have what's called a corpus callosotomy done back many years ago, and we were not ready for it. We just did not want to do it. Kept going on our journey, hoping for more medicines. When she got into high school, we started advocating for the cannabidiol oil that now is Epidiolex. We did do the Epidiolex drug trial. It did not help her. We actually took the drug for a whole year after the clinical drug trial portion closed, and it did not help her. So we're still right now battling seizures and this intellectual and developmental delay. And in 2017, we had more discussions on having this corpus callosotomy. So in November of 2017, she had a partial corpus callosotomy, which is, if you don't know, it's a brain split where they take and cut between the two hemispheres of your brain. And they went partially through, they didn't go all the way through. And over the past 4 years now, I guess, her seizures are not really any better. So she still has generalized tonic-clonic seizures. She has atonic seizures, the dropping type seizures, which are the ones that cause the most injuries to her. She's had numerous hospitalizations with different kinds of injuries, just minor most of them are just minor injuries. She's had some lacerations on her scalp, on her eyebrow. She did have one more of a severe injury, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, where she hit the bathroom counter and hit her front teeth back up into her gums. And she had to eventually have surgery to have the teeth pulled back down because braces and all that kind of thing was not working. But Allison is a trooper. So she's an amazing girl. She's 22. She wants to work. She wants a job. She is able to walk. She is able to talk. She, as most of those people on the panel know, she's able to make her needs known when she wants something or when she doesn't want something. So I am blessed. I know there are other people that their children have severe epilepsy, kind of like Allison's, and they're not able to have some of the things that I have. So I do feel blessed that she is able to do those things. What else can I say? She currently, right now, we were fortunate enough to get a waiver services for her. She has a support for community living waiver, which grants her tremendous amount of supports. And just like I'm finding out up here in New York, it's service providers that we need. So she is finally hooked up with a service provider that comes to my home for 40 hours a week. We've had about 3 weeks of service with her, and Allison is just over the moon. She loves it. She's goes out with this young girl. Her name is Ashley. She takes her out. She does her personal care needs, helps Allison fix some meals. They've gone shopping. They've gone to the movies. They've gone out to eat. All of those things are all life skills that hopefully, like a regular 22-year-old should be able to do. But Allison just needs those extra supports, and she's finally able to get some of them. So I guess, Beth, that's kind of my story in a nutshell. But parenting a child with epilepsy, well, it's tough. So we've learned to adapt and change, be flexible. I do have a 25-year-old son who does not have epilepsy. So he was about 7.5 when his sister started having seizures. So pretty much his whole childhood, he's watched his sister have these seizures. He's watched us be all ready to go out someplace to go do something, and Allison would have a seizure and we wouldn't be able to go. Changing plans, or my husband, I do have my husband is, my big support system as well. He would, like, if my son had a baseball game, one of us would go to the baseball game, but both of us could not go because one of us had to be home with Allison. So, I know I just learned to be an advocate. I met up with Deb McGrath probably, now it's a really long time ago, 16, 17 years ago now. And she's helped me a lot over the past 17 years. She's gave me my voice for advocacy. But back then, she showed me that I can get through this. So she gave me the support that I needed to help do what I can do for my child. She was there for me in school when Allison was having a hard time and the schools weren't doing what I needed them to do. So when we got it done. So, all right. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm going to lose it. Anybody has questions later, I'll talk at the end. Thanks.
Yes, we will have a Q&A session at the end for everyone to talk. So thank you, Laureen. The next speaker is Clay Sturgeon, the father of a son with epilepsy. So I'll let you take it away, Clay.
Great. And one of Laureen and Allison were some of the first people that we met after Jackson was diagnosed with epilepsy, along with Charles and his mom. And the first thing I want to say before I talk more about it is the Epilepsy Foundation has really helped Jackson see others like him, and he and Charles were lucky enough to go and do the Teen Speak Up in Washington D.C. and advocate for epilepsy awareness and epilepsy funding, both on the national and the state level. They've done that a couple of times, and that's just been really a blessing for Jack because, well, I should back up and start less in the middle. My name is Clay Sturgeon. My son is Jackson. Jackson began having seizures in the 4th grade. He was he played sports. He was in football. He played baseball. At the time he played basketball, and was just super happy kid, super bright, very inquisitive, and began having seizures, and sort of, I would say seizures mixed with sleepwalking. We have a little bit of a family history of sleepwalking. Every doctor that we've ever had has sort of debated with me whether those are two different things or if the sleepwalking was a type of seizure. I don't care to have the discussion, but he would exhibit both qualities. And but it was really limited to the nighttime. Then in the summer of his 4th grade year, he began having them in daytime hours. He would have them when we would be in the car. He would have them just standing, and one side would stiffen and the other side would melt. And we tried to get him into the doctor, and sort of struggled with that, and finally got an appointment that was 3 months out. And then in the course of one weekend, he had multiple seizures, and we ended up in the University of Kentucky emergency room, and they had run a bunch of tests. They weren't really finding anything. They were bumping up his appointment so that we were able to meet, wouldn't have to wait 3 months, but it was still going to be about 3 weeks. And Jackson actually had a seizure right there in the children's ER. And you never hoped for a seizure, but I know that God was knowing that Jackson needed treatment, and that was his way to begin immediate treatment. So we did lots of tests. They've never found a cause for Jackson's seizure. He started on Keppra and went through a few different medicines before oxcarbazine worked for him. He ended up going about 2 years seizure-free, and we began the process of weaning him off medicine. And halfway through, he had a breakthrough seizure, and has not been seizure-free since then. Now, we're very blessed that Jackson is altered in a very minor way. You can tell, or you could tell, we've lived with him the way he is now for so long that it's just Jackson now. But at first you could tell that it had shaved edges off of his perception, edges off of his personality. But he would, once he would get adjusted to a different medicine, he would overcome that and still excelled educationally, or academically, I should say, and was still able to do things he loved. He was still able to play baseball, still able to play football, and was able to do that all through high school. We're very blessed that his biggest side effect is, that little bit of dulling of his senses. Jackson's mind is very fast. He processes things very well, but with the medicine that he takes, it's no longer quick. So as he would progress through high school, we worked with Deb and others to get things like his 504 plan set up, and with extra time on certain exams, certain types of things, he was able to thrive. He ended up graduating high school with a 4.2 GPA and was salutatorian of his high school class. I'm not sure why I'm emotional, because it's all good stuff. And he's a freshman at UK in the College of Engineering. He's done well. He's learned that college is a little different, and he's learned to do stuff on his own. He does his own laundry or can do his own laundry. I say that because right now there's a load in our washer, so apparently we still get to do his laundry, but it's a labor of love. And the other large side effect that we've had with Jackson is he's able to get out there and do things, but it's caused him to be socially behind. Even though intellectually he does well, I would estimate that he's 5 to 6 years younger in his personality, in what he pursues, in what he likes, in the games he plays, than his classmates. And that's made for, kind of an interesting thing, interesting dynamic. And when you layer on that the fact that he doesn't look different, he doesn't, and I'm so thankful for that. And none of this is meant to be anything other than a praise and a thanks for the support. But because he doesn't look different, his friends often would say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. I don't know why you get extra time on tests. I could have got an A on that too if I had extra time." And so he would sort of take that, and he's a very compassionate person. He must get it from his mother. No one ever knew, because all of the seizures he'd always ever had were through the night, at least the ones that he'd had in school. Even though the medicine never really, once we started weaning him off, the medicine was never able to take the seizures away again. It did make it so that they happened in the sleep cycle. Then in his junior year, just a couple of weeks before COVID started, he had a breakthrough one in physics at school. And the school, the teachers, everyone saw it and hadn't seen it before. Since then, for the last 3 semesters, he would go on to he had one at football practice. Always, and he was never injured. We were so blessed and thankful for that. But it opened up a door where he was able to talk about it. And there were other students, both at Jackson School and at the other local school. Jackson went to Paris. Bourbon County is just across the county, and Jackson was able to talk with other kids and mentor other kids. And again, you just like that one, the first day in the ER, you never want there to ever even be one, but it made it where it helped him kind of find his advocacy voice for it. He won a speech competition talking about epilepsy. Actually, when he advanced to the next level, we got the little graded report, and it said, really enjoyed your speech, but it was too mature for the other kids, so he didn't advance the second time, which was a very interesting thing, because I think it forced him to grow up a little faster. But I'll stop rambling now. Just thanks everybody that's on the call.
Thanks so much, Clay. Our next speaker is Lara Rieger, and she is a mother of a daughter with epilepsy.
Sorry, I had to unmute. And I will tell you, I cried in a meeting at my daughter's school last week, so I get it. I did not want to, but I did. And I might today too. So first, I'm going to echo everybody. We really appreciate the Epilepsy Foundation. Actually, attending this conference was one of the first things we did after our daughter was diagnosed back when she was 4 years old. So, it was kind of a great introduction to us for the types of things we were going to be dealing with as the parents of a child with epilepsy, because it was a very, very new thing that we had no frame of reference for when she was diagnosed. So my daughter's name is Louisa, and she is about 7, she'll be 8 in February. But she was diagnosed when she was 4. It probably took us 6 months to figure out what was going on, because she has absence epilepsy, and we would just notice her not paying attention. And I think for a long time we're like, all right, she's 4, she's just ignoring us, doesn't want to do things. She begged us to play soccer, and she would get out in the middle of the field and just stand there. And we were kind of like, what are you doing? You begged to play and you don't want to play. And she just kept like not listening to us at odd times. And my husband was like Googling it one day, and he was like, read about this. And it was about absence epilepsy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I think that's what she has. And so I called the pediatrician and I said, look, unless she has one of these moments in your office, you're not going to know. And they sent us straight to a neurologist who did an EEG. And she was probably having 100 or more of those a day when she was diagnosed, but some of them are really short, right? Like, I mean, they usually only lasted a few seconds. We started out with her on ethosuximide, which seemed to control the seizures, but her emotions were all over the place. I mean, we would have absolute meltdowns for hours at a time. And, I was like, this cannot continue. So they added Lamictal as a medication, which was actually a great combination. It worked really well until she had an allergic reaction to Lamictal. That's very, very scary. It's called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. If you ever want to be terrified, look that up. So we had to stop that immediately, and they switched her over to Depakote, and that's what she was on. That did a pretty good job controlling her seizures the whole time she was on that. She basically started school, kindergarten, on these medications, and kindergarten and first grade were rough, partially because of COVID also. Her first introduction to school was during a pandemic. They were doing virtual school, was horrible for all parties involved. But we also discovered during that time that she has inattentive presenting ADHD, which, to me, that's something I really look at. We need to think about the comorbidities that go along with epilepsy, because she doesn't, she's kind of like one of the kids that most people wouldn't know she's got epilepsy, because they don't ever, I've sat with her while she's having a 24-hour EEG, and she's had seizures and I've not known. So, you don't notice, most people don't know, but ADHD is more common in kids with epilepsy. And it really caused she didn't misbehave in school. Her behavior was very good, but she had a really hard time paying attention and staying focused. So, and she was also having, and her neuropsychologist believes, because of stress and anxiety, she was having psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, which are basically, they look like we would be doing homework with her at home and would think she was having seizures, but we took her to get an EEG and they were not registering seizures. And so her body was convincing itself that it was having a seizure. And to her, it felt like she was having a seizure, but the brain activity was not showing that. And so her neuropsychologist believes that's related to the stress and anxiety of being at school and having to hold it all together. And I would get emails from her teacher the part of the year that they were actually in school in first grade. She's had 12 seizures before lunch. She's had 15 seizures before lunch. And we believe they were these psychogenic seizures because we would take her up to Cincinnati and they would do an EEG and they'd say, well, it's not registering any seizures, her medication's working. So the hope was that we could get her on ADHD medication and that would help with the anxiety and thus kind of calm those psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. So currently she does take Focalin and Guanfacine for ADHD. It seems to be a pretty good combination for that. She is very well behaved at school. We do have some learning challenges, particularly with reading. We're actually having her tested next week for dyslexia up at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. But she kind of has a slow processing speed on reading. She does mix up letters and sounds and things like that. So like on IQ testing, she's actually like a high average, but there are certain things like in reading that are like below average. So she does have, we had a 504 plan. We just switched to an IEP for that because she's below level on reading right now because she has a hard time passing a timed reading test. I will say we are very blessed that she's actually been seizure free from an EEG standpoint for a year now. And we have been weaned off her medication since September. So we're hoping, our fingers are crossed, because as you all know, all epilepsy medications come with their fair share of side effects that aren't any good either. So, we're hoping that it stays that way and that we keep these psychogenic seizures under control as well. But I will say that to me is something that's very important. It's not just the epilepsy, it's the comorbidities that go along with it, ADHD being a big one. And I will say for us, that ADHD and the learning stuff has been harder than managing the seizures. But I get that that's her type of epilepsy because she's only ever had absence seizures. We've never had a tonic-clonic seizure or anything like that, and we're very blessed in that way. But I will say, and I'll echo Clay talking about kind of the social development, because I do feel like, and I've heard that kids with ADHD tend to be socially a couple years behind their peers. And I will say, I think that's true for her. In some ways, she's very, I guess you would say, immature. And not that she can't be friends with peers, but just certain things she does are not as mature as other kids her age. But she does all activities, she loves to sing. She takes singing lessons. She was actually in a musical at our high school. She was in SpongeBob the Musical a couple of weeks ago. So, I think finding her niche, she's really a performer, a singer, dancer, performer, and really excels in those areas. So we're really just trying to find those things that make her feel good about herself and feel confident. I think dealing with the school thing, that's something my husband and I have to kind of, he would say probably me more than him, come to terms with, because I'm used to an older kid that's like an accelerated, straight A, easy student. So dealing with someone that struggles in those areas is hard. And you know, and that's why I said I cried in a meeting the other day, because I don't ever want her to feel less because she struggles in those areas. And it's like Clay was saying, you know, that nobody sees their seizures, right? So they don't know that they have this thing that they're dealing with as well. So thank you guys for having me, and I'll stop now and so you can move on.
Thank you, Lara. Our next panelist is Christy Wilson. She's the mother of a son with epilepsy.
Hi, I'm Christy Wilson. My son is Charles. He was 7 years old when he's had his first seizure, and he just happened to have had strep throat at the same time and had a fever. And I was also kind of separated from my ex-husband at the time. And so son had a fever. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep him in the bed with me and kind of watch him overnight. And just having him in the bed, that was the first time I had seen him have a seizure. And so, you know, panic, of course, because I didn't know what was going on. And, you know, took him to the doctor the next day. And so his pediatrician asked me to video if it ever happened again. And so I think it was maybe a couple of nights later, it happened again. And so here I'm like fumbling with my phone, trying to video, trying to do what the doctor said to do. And, you know, still not sure of what I'm supposed to do. And so I got it videoed, and we actually got in with UK neurology. And when I went to show the doctor the video wouldn't work. So, but at least our pediatrician had seen it. And so there had been eyes like on the video to see what he was doing. But then all of the tests that he was having, they would be inconclusive that it was seizure. And so they were like, you know, we can put him on medicine, but this test is, you know, showing inconclusive. The few people I had ran into that had children with seizure, they're like, nope, it's black and white. Like he's either got it or he doesn't. Don't put him on medicine until they tell you for sure. So our process before he even got on medicine was like a year long. And then we went into the hospital for the video EEG stay, and we were there for close to 7 days, and they finally caught it. And so I just remember the doctor coming in going, we're going to give you some time, you know, go into the bathroom, do what you need to do, you know, kick, scream, cry, whatever, but this is where we are. And, you know, I remember him telling me that right now his seizures were not affecting him, but that, you know, it could take that one seizure that could change our world completely. And that, you know, I had to get him on medicine. And so I remember like going into the bathroom, just kind of grabbing hold on the sink, looking at the mirror saying, you know, how am I going to do this? You know, because I felt completely alone. And Charles like followed me in, and, you know, then I realized, wait a minute, he's on video, like the nurses are seeing this. And so I'm trying to tell Charles, you know, like stay out and stuff. But I think it was not too soon after that, I was on SBDM at school. That's when I met Laureen. And she kind of told me I needed to get in contact with the foundation. And from that point on, that was what we needed. Or that's what Charles needed. And what they've given for Charles, there's no gratitude I could ever show him. I mean, because they've made him the leader he is today. And he's been able to advocate for himself. I was mama bear. Laureen can tell you many times, probably more so mama bear, but even with him, you know, pushing him that you can't let this affect you. And I am a teacher, so I didn't want it to be a crutch. I wanted it, you know, it's like, okay, this is what God has given us. We've got to see what we're supposed to do with it. And it was Charles that he kind of came up and he was like, I'm, you know, doing this because it's my voice. I can be the voice for those, you know, boys and girls with epilepsy that can't explain what's going on with them. And so that's what he's, you know, did. And, you know, even like with his voice, I remember he actually had an IEP for speech when he started school. And when he got on his medicine, that year, like he was 8 years old when he started the medicine, his speech completely like turned around, and the speech therapist was like, "What have you done? Like his speech is completely better. Like, he doesn't need speech anymore." This was the same speech therapist that a year before told me he would need speech all the way through high school. And, the only thing we could come up with was the medicine. And so I'm a Google person. So I started Googling, and it was like parents had put that, once their child got on epilepsy medicine, their speech improved. And so like having epilepsy, I guess, was causing Charles with the speech impediments that he had. But then once he started Keppra at that time, his speech improved, drastically, where he didn't have the IEP anymore. I remember the doctor telling us, to watch for signs and stuff, and that if he got really mean, that I needed to call, because Keppra sometimes can have that effect. Well, when he got, he did start, all of a sudden his personality changed. I called the doctor, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you call me earlier?" Because he had actually gained a lot of weight. I, just thought that was normal. That, he's a growing, 8-year-old, he gained weight, but the medicine had also caused him to gain weight. And he got off Keppra, went on to Lamictal. He's been really lucky with Lamictal. He went off of the medicine right before his 8th grade year, and then it was 3 months after band camp kind of ended. Well, not even quite 3 months. He had another seizure and had to go back on the medicine. He's still on medicine, which was really hard to send him off because he's at University of Louisville. But I have to trust that he understands, because working with the foundation, he knows what he needs to do to be a person living with epilepsy. And so the doctor had requested that he go into the hospital to try to come off of the medicine again before he went away to college. Well, right before he turned 16, and he was like, "No, I don't want to, because if I have a seizure, I won't be able to drive." And he's like, "I'm on my medicine and I'm not having seizures." So we're at the point now where this coming summer, the doctor wants him to go into the hospital to see if he can come off. But we talked to other people at the foundation that's connected with the foundation, and that they're saying, "I'm an adult, I just take my medicine. It's, no big deal." So we're kind of back and forth of, should we go ahead and come off of, try to come off of it again, but then he'll be away at college, or should he just continue to take it, knowing that it's keeping the seizures away? I cannot say enough as a parent that getting involved with Deb and Laureen and anybody at the foundation, they've been our lifesavers. And I think Laureen sometimes wants to, she's a better mom sometimes than I am. But I do say that he's gained friendship and friends that will never, having that experience with the Sturgeons. I remember, we're from the same small town, and I remember when we got the boys together for the first time, Michelle and I were like talking, epilepsy the whole time. And then we like leave, and we both like asked them, like, "Hey, so did, you and Jackson, I was like, did you and Jackson talk about epilepsy?" And both boys told us separately, like, we didn't need to, like, we were just talking. Like, they didn't talk about it at all, where as parents, it was like, that was the only thing we talked about and stuff. So I think that just having that support of knowing you're not the only one, when you feel like sometimes that, you are the only one experience it, knowing that you're not, that, there's people you can reach out to, just to have that soundboard sometimes helps.
Are you finished, Christy?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Our last panelist for this session is Sonya Ferguson. She is also our Director of Client Services at the Epilepsy Foundation. So not only is she going to share her story about her son with epilepsy, but she's also going to share a little bit about the resources that we provide through the foundation for families affected by epilepsy. So Sonya, you're up.
All right, thank you, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, let's get on into this. So my son, his name is Braden. He is 6 years old, and he was 5 when he was diagnosed with epilepsy. And pretty much the way our story went, it was very stressful. Last year during the pandemic, obviously it was a very scary time for everybody. The world stopped. We were all locked in our house pretty much, kind of. And the daycare at Braden's daycare, they had called me before and asked if our son had epilepsy or anything like that. And I kind of laughed it off like, what do you mean? He's just a silly boy. I have no idea what you're talking about, because me and my husband had never, ever seen any signs of epilepsy or anything at all. So I was just like, no, he's a silly boy. I have no idea what you're talking about, and kind of blew it off. So when the pandemic happened and when we were stuck at home every day with both of our children, because I have a daughter too, she does not have epilepsy. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, but we were at home every day and we were trying to figure out life during a pandemic. And I started seeing things with Braden. And I was like, look, Michael, what was that? And, Braden would kind of space out, and I'm like, Braden, what are you doing? I would talk to him and he wasn't responding. So I was like, what in the world was that? That's probably what the daycare was talking about. Again, I blew it off, didn't think anything of it. It started happening more and more and more. It started happening. So I said, this is not normal. And this is probably what they were talking about. Called his doctor, made an appointment, of course, had an EEG, nothing came from it. Had an MRI, everything was normal. So I was like, okay, well, I did everything I'm supposed to do as a parent. What is going on? So we continued to have life. He turned 5 and had a birthday party, and life was normal as we could have it during the pandemic, and it continued to happen over and over. So I called his doctor and I said, look, something is not right. Our son is having these spells where he's blacking out, kind of just not here, and then he would get really tired. And so she's like, I'll hook you up with a neurologist and we'll go from there. I spoke with the neurologist and he said, why don't you start recording these things? Whatever's going on, I want you to start recording it, because, I don't really know what's going on. We're not there with you. So that's what I did. Fast forward, we started recording things. I sent it in to the neurologist, and finally on December the 29th of last year, they finally diagnosed our son with focal seizures. And it was the scariest thing I've ever known in my life. We had no support. Nobody in our family has seizures. So again, we're here with the diagnosis. We have no clue how and when and what, but that's kind of where we are right now. And the scary part of Braden's epilepsy is, I've heard from other people here tonight that it is definitely affecting him, his behavior. Academically, my son is in 1st grade. He has an IEP. He has a 504 plan, but that for me as a parent, for us, is the most difficult part of Braden's epilepsy, because as of right now, thank God, he has been seizure-free for, I believe, 7 months now. But academically, emotionally, socially, behavior, that is what is really struggling for Braden. Today was a bad day. We have good days, we have bad days. Today was not a good day for school. I feel like as a parent, the principal, every teacher, every special education teacher knows me by heart, because Braden is always the trouble child, that's always in trouble for whatever reason. But I'm just trying to stay focused and understand that we will have better days and better outcomes. When we're not having the best days, we'll figure it out the next day. I have to take every day one day at a time. And that's what I'm learning as a parent that has a child with epilepsy, that I focus on today. I don't worry about necessarily what happened yesterday, but I try to focus on today and what I can do today to make his life better tomorrow and for the next day and for the next day. And that's just the way I kind of look at it, because it is it's a learning curve for me and my husband. Obviously, having a child in school during a pandemic is already difficult anyway. As the other speaker has said in the past, virtual learning was difficult for Braden for kindergarten. We're finally in school every day. That's still challenging because, you know, obviously when you have a child that has ADHD, my child also has ADHD. So not only are we dealing with the epilepsy, but we're dealing with ADHD as well. So all of those medications for that and the epilepsy, everything has side effects. So I say all of that because I hear everyone. I am here every day trying to figure out the best medication for our child, what we should take them off of, what we should put them back on, what's going to be the best thing for him academically, for his education, what's going to be best for his epilepsy. So all of those things are always something that I'm always forever thinking about. I lose sleep over it. I pray about it. But the best part about all of this is that right now, as Beth said, I am the Director of Client Services for the foundation. I'm very new in this position. I just started in September. It was literally God sent because not only am I able to now advocate for my son, but I'm also able to advocate for people like you all, for your children and your family members. And that excites me. It gives me hope to know that even though I might have a bad day with my son, but I'm still able to help and assist and support people just like my son, or who have other, you know, needs and accommodations that they may need. So that is the joy that I try to look at in my son's epilepsy, because even though it is a struggle, even though it's something that we're dealing with every day, but I'm educating myself and I'm educating other people on things that are going to be helpful to help people who are impacted with epilepsy. And I will end on that note for my son and to talk a little bit more about the programs and services that we offer at the here at the foundation. So a lot of the things that I do day to day is answering phone calls. People may have questions about medications with their insurance, you know, anything, whether it is, you know, I need help with medication, or could you help me with maybe some job discrimination maybe that I have experienced. Another example, like my son who struggles in school academically and with his behavior, I help with IEPs and different school programs. There might be parents that need that support who might not understand how to facilitate or what language or paperwork they need to provide for their IEPs for their children. So we support them with that. Making sure that schools are aware of seizure action plans are very important for children, young children who are in school, or anyone who's in school, making sure that their teachers are aware of having those action plans in place. So if a child were to get sick in school or have a seizure, that every professional and every adult knows how to take care of that child, keep them safe, making sure that that plan is followed accordingly. And that they have all the tools that they need. Our foundation also offers seizure first aid trainings. So if anybody is ever interested or knows a company or someone who may need training in first aid, we provide that at the foundation. It's online. Beth here on the call tonight is our Director of Education, who facilitates a lot of the trainings here at the foundation and makes sure that people have all of those tools and knowledge and skills that they may need to be successful in those aspects. We also have a class called Epilepsy 101. It's also another class that can help people understand the recognition and first aid training for epilepsy and how people are impacted on that. So we actually have a really resourceful website and page on our page that can give you all the different programs that we offer, different trainings, how that works, what you need to do to register, who you need to contact. So again, not only has the foundation been helpful for you all, but it's been so helpful for me as well, not only as an employee, but just as a person with a parent, as a parent that has a child with epilepsy. I know that not only can I reach out to my husband for assistance, and, you know, he's always my person to talk to, but I can call my supervisor, Deb, and I can talk to her about, you know, hey, can you help me with Braden? I have a question, you know, do you think I should do this? Do you think I should try this? Or, hey, I just need to talk to somebody today. So again, it's very, very overwhelming. But when you have a staff and when you have a foundation that is supportive, and I think I'm going to get emotional too, but it's okay, because we need to be aware that people are here to help you. People are here to help us. And it's just a wonderful place to work and a wonderful place to support people who have epilepsy. So I'm so very grateful. I'm thankful, and thank you for sharing your stories tonight.
Thank you, Sonya, and thank you everyone for your stories. Those were extremely compelling stories about your children and your all struggles as a family dealing with epilepsy. One thing I want to mention before we open up the floor for questions is that we do provide, as a service for children affected by epilepsy, school-age children, we have a grant through COSER Charities that allows us to have monthly youth epilepsy activity group meetings. Right now they're virtual, but they are free of charge to families that are affected by epilepsy. That is the child with epilepsy, their siblings, or children of a parent with epilepsy. So please take advantage of that opportunity if you have not yet. All that information is on our website. Again, our website is www.efky.org. And again, like Sonya said, that will give information about our different programs, our services, as well as how to sign up for different training programs and whatnot. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. Does anyone have any questions? And if you don't want to actually ask the question, feel free to put it in the chat box and I will be moderating that as well. So if anyone would like to ask a question, or even the panelists, if they would like to ask each other questions, that's fine with me as well. So somebody asked something. Yes, Karen, need to unmute. Hold on. There you go.
I have a comment for one of the, Christy was talking about that she was concerned about Charles coming off of his medicine and wanting to, about him becoming an adult. Well, I grew up with epilepsy from the time I was less than 2 years old, and I am now 56 years old. And so, and I went through all my childhood with severe grand mal seizures, absence seizures. I had pretty much all different kinds of seizures as a child. And I would say, and my seizures leveled out. Once I became 18, I had my last grand mal seizure. And kind of like what you're saying with Charles, that he didn't have any more seizures, like bad seizures or anything. And so he's doing well right now. And the way I thought about taking the medicine, the doctor said to me that, well, you're probably better off just to stay on your medicine. But I've remained on my medicine. And for me, I don't even know if the doctor said that I could go off my medicine now, that I would even feel good about it, because I've been on it for so long that it's just part of me. But if Charles feels like that he's more comfortable staying on his medicine, then I would say go ahead and just let him be on it until he feels comfortable being off of it. Because especially when he's in the transition time, when he's going to university and everything, away from home and everything, until he probably feels comfortable, then I would say if he feels more comfortable, then I would say go ahead and let him stay on it, because that would just have a little peace of mind for him. For me, it was peace of mind for me too. So I've been there before. So I thought I would just share that with you, Christy.
Thank you. Yeah, like you said, he is in that transitional. And then I kind of worry too, like he's learned how to study on medicine. So I even think about like what will happen, you know, like you would hope that the study, you know, like him studying in college and stuff, that it would even get better if he came off the medicine. But I always wonder, you know, like he's gotten used to, like, that's who he is now. He's gotten to a person to study with, you know, understanding how the medicine affects him.
Right, that's true. And yes, and you know, I've often said, I don't even know who I would be. I often question how I would deal with my life without medicine. I would be interested in how it would feel to have a week without drugs, you know, because I've never had a day of my life since I was old enough to remember without drugs.
Yeah, I remember Deb came to one of his 504 meetings to help, you know, advocate what he needed for his 504. And he made the decision he didn't want to take the 504 to college, even though he could have. He was like, no, he said, I know what I have to do and, you know, like how I need to study and stuff. So he made that decision. So he's, you know, still doing good, you know, but he made the decision not even to have the 504 following to college.
Well, and that's good. And, you know, as long as he knows that he has resources available to him at college, and, you know, not to be afraid to ask for them if he needs them, you know, because, you know, hey, everybody needs something every once in a while, you know, if as long as he knows what he has available to him, that's all that matters, you know. I think it's very interesting also that every single one of y'all said that your children had struggles with ADHD. I was, of course, when I was a kid, it wasn't diagnosed in childhood because there was no such a diagnosis when I was a kid of ADHD. I was diagnosed as an adult when I was in college with ADHD. And I never took medicine for it, but I have found that there's a thing associated with ADHD that you with younger kids might want to think about, is that there's a thing called executive functioning that goes along with ADHD that is oftentimes problematic for people with ADHD. And I have a thing that is called executive functioning disorder, and it's just where your organizational skills are less than stellar. And so you just need extra, like on my job, I have extra things on my computer to help me organize and things like that. And you just figure out like, and also people with executive functioning is something you might pay attention to as parents. A lot of people with executive functioning, like they might, if you go through your day, you get busy, you might forget to eat. My mother gets so aggravated with me. I can get really busy doing something, and it can be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh, you know what? I just remembered I haven't eaten all day. So those of you who have kids with ADHD, just kind of be mindful. If they do things like that, sometimes it could be the ADHD part of them that is the issue. I never realized these things until I was an adult, and I actually was reading up on the executive functioning part of the ADHD that I found these things out, and it's been very interesting.
Yeah,
So-
I will say that, you know, my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD about a year and a half ago. And the executive functioning skills are one of the big areas where she struggles. And, you know, at first I thought, because she can build Legos, really complicated Lego sets for hours by herself and get really involved. And I was like, there's no way she can have ADHD. Look at how she focuses. But it's a preferred task, right? So her mind can do it. But she can't, and this goes back to executive function skills. If it's not a preferred task, she struggles to make herself do it, right? And so I will say, because I was really leery to put her on ADHD medication, especially because she was already taking like serious seizure medications. But I'll tell you, it's the best thing we did for her. There is no way she could function at school and to get through homework without them. Like I mean, we struggled with weight loss. Like we struggled with weight gain on Depakote. We struggled with weight loss on the ADHD medication, but luckily that's leveled out some. And I will say it's one of the best things we did for her was put her on ADHD medication. I cannot, like, I would be losing my mind every day because homework is like the bane of my existence with her.
Yes. And like
it completely ruins our entire family's evening.
right. Oh,
I mean, it's still not great, but it's like 1,000 times better on medication. I mean, it was like monopolizing our entire family every day.
Yes.
Before it.
So Laura, did you say that your daughter has a 504 plan or an IEP?
She had a 504 plan, and literally last week we just got the word that they had done their testing at the school and qualified for an IEP.
Okay.
So it's primarily looking at reading and some speech things for her because she is below level on reading. Her math seems to be pretty good. Her writing's good. She struggles with spelling and reading. And we are having her tested next week at Cincinnati Children's Hospital for dyslexia.
Yes, I remember you saying that. So my thought on that, as of you said that, of course, homework is an issue. And so we can definitely work with you in helping to incorporate some of the accommodations for homework and for other parts of the IEP that would definitely accommodate her and then also be helpful to you as a parent.
Yeah.
So,
That's been a big struggle with her school. And, because I've told them, and I'm hoping that now that we have this IEP, that's going to improve because, and this goes back to executive function and speed, processing speed. What takes some kids maybe 15 minutes to do will literally take us hours. And then there's a point of diminishing returns where she's just like over it. Right.
Yeah.
And, I told them that just telling me to stop when she can't do anymore is unacceptable because I'm like, well, then I'm teaching her that she doesn't have to complete tasks. And I'm also, I don't know what, it's like, then I have to make a decision. Does she just fail this spelling test on Friday because we don't do it? I feel like that's an undue burden on me to make the decision as to what's the important stuff here. So, I'm hoping now that we have an IEP, there's going to be a little more accountability for that.
And I would love to chime in, Deb, on that too, as far as that IEP. I would love to help you with that. Please call us and reach out because that's something I do all the time. I did it for my son personally. And I know that that's a big piece for his academic to help him, accommodating, giving him extra time. If for whatever reason, if they have a test and they only get a specific time, well, with that IEP, that would help you be able to get extra time for your child. So she's not, or you have a daughter. Yes. So she's not, not getting all the points that she could get and being able to fulfill all of that just because she needs a, extra time frame or, needs to take it home and complete it. So that's absolutely something that I would love to help you with.
And for me,
recommendation.
Go ahead.
That Laura, for you, possibly for your daughter that you might talk to your school about. I took a class in college, but you could so use it for a elementary age child. I questioned why they didn't use it in schools. It's called the SQ3R method of reading. It teaches children to read to remember. I took it in college, and once I took it and learned the method, then I never had trouble remembering the things I read. So you might ask your daughter's school if they've heard of that method and if there was any way that someone could possibly incorporate it into your daughter's learning, because it is phenomenal method of reading, of learning to read.
Yeah.
Because it's really not difficult. And I could very easily see it being taught to a young child in school. And
So
they could-
Laura, well, let me ask you this. So
Yeah.
was there a neuropsychological evaluation done on your daughter at Cincinnati Children's?
Yes.
Yes. So then
Yes.
do you know if the school is incorporating that information also into her IEP or
Yes,
into their plan? They are.
Yes, they have that
Great.
information, and then they did their own testing. And then
Correct.
we've got this evaluation, this more specific reading and literacy evaluation scheduled for next week. And she's also, we've been doing twice a week tutoring, private tutoring with an Orton Gillingham certified tutor, because Orton Gillingham is a technique that works really well for kids with dyslexia.
Right.
And I mean, it does seem to be helping, but you know, it's also costing me $200 a month to
Yeah.
go to a private tutor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't like that, but you know, you do what you
Right.
got to do.
Right.
But
Laura, I
um,
was going to tell you just from our experience navigating through with the IEPs, you know, with your daughter and, you know, assignments, they can modify those assignments. There
Yeah.
she is. There's a princess. Hi,
there-
princess.
say hi.
Hi, sweetie.
So,
She's a-
I mean, instead of giving her 10 spelling words to struggle
in the
with,
closet,
maybe
Mama.
they could give her
Sorry.
like, you know, that's fine. You know, believe me, my daughter would be sitting in the background if I was in Kentucky.
Well,
so.
I don't know what daddy's doing. He's supposed to be.
Because I would go say the same thing. Where's daddy?
Yeah.
But,
where's dad?
You know, they could give her like, you know, if she could handle, let's say 5 spelling words.
Yeah.
And make that her spelling list. And this way she also gets that sense of accomplishing it too.
Exactly.
Because if she can master 5
Yeah.
in that 15-20 minutes that spelling should, you know, relatively takes, then she also gets the satisfaction of mastering those 5 versus struggling to do 10.
Yeah.
If people get, you know, I'm not a ditto person, no offense, Christy. So, but you know, if she's doing math problems, do 5 math problems versus 20 math problems on a sheet, and she can finish that and still have quality kid time after,
Right.
you know, without that struggle. And she finishes her assignment. She's completed all of her homework,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely.
So just a thought, with especially that you have the IEP now, they should be able to do
Yes.
that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to monopolize that conversation. I was just
No, that's okay.
trying to
No.
share some of
you
our
know,
experiences.
been
Right,
there.
no.
Believe me, I've been there where I was like, are you kidding? You're giving her this stuff. I remember when Allison was in middle school, she's sitting in a middle school social studies classroom. I'd be like, why? She's not getting anything out of this. She needs to learn life skills, you know, and I had to fight, strong word, but I had to advocate for that for her, to be able to get her what she needed versus the learning about the history of World War II. That's not going to help her right now. We have to do what's going to help her. So.
Right.
Well, and I will say for me, that's one thing this group has done is help me become an advocate for her, because, you know, my experience, I have a 15-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, and my 15-year-old is in the same school district, and I loved everything about the school for him, but I have a completely different experience with her. And now it's like, I feel like I have to become the adversary all the time. Whereas, you know, because he's an easy kid to have in your class, right? Like he doesn't need special accommodations. He's like, you know, straight A student, does his thing, you know, he's fine. But now, you know, it's just interesting how you have a whole different, you know, and just I've become an advocate at work. We're starting a disability ERG at work, you know, because, you know, I've learned how horrible it is to deal with insurance all the time. You know, it's just, it really brings to light what people have to struggle with.
I have one person that I can just not blame for my advocacy, and it's Deb over there. So I can blame her for giving me my voice, because didn't know anything about it
Yeah.
back 15 years ago. Didn't know anything. And I've learned a
Yeah.
lot over the years.
Well, I learned because of my daughter being diagnosed 33 years ago with epilepsy, and, learned how to be an advocate for her. So, and then I've been blessed to be able to work with each one of you and to help you along your epilepsy journey. So, and just listening to you all talk about, your children now, some adult children's, Clay with Jackson and Christy with Charles, and, just incredible. And Laureen with Allie, we've been on this journey for a long time, and it is wonderful to see them develop and grow into their each individual person, and how much the foundation has impacted them, but how much we've grown because of them. So it is wonderful. Yeah.
Your
And Clay,
kids are very fortunate, because some people don't have that from their parents. Some people don't have that support. So your kids are very fortunate.
yeah.
They're very
Yeah.
lucky.
Deb,
Yeah.
I have to hold something up. In the sea of junk that's in my parents' house, I have, this is Allison, my daughter back in the day. I know Clay talked about the kiddos going to DC. I couldn't think of Jackson's name for a second there. Jackson and Charles going to DC to be Teen Speak Up representatives. My daughter Allison, it was back in 2009, went to DC as a Kid Speak Up. And I just found one of the flyers that my parents have saved, and how little she was. She was like, what? She was 8 at the time. Long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
That was a long time ago.
I remember the first time you helped Charles tell his story. We were getting ready to go to Frankfurt, and we had stayed at the hotel. And I just remember him going, Mom, I don't know what to do. And, you were pulling him up, and he was holding on to me, and Lorraine's telling me, go, and it was just I forget, I was maybe 20 of us in that room, and it was even before he went to Frankfurt the next day. But I still remember him just kind of fumbling through, he is so much better at, telling his story than I am and stuff. But I did, just Deb has done so much, Lorraine's done so much, and being a teacher, I want to say too, please stay in contact with your teachers. And I'll be the first one to tell you, as a teacher, if you run across a teacher that doesn't want you to stay in contact with them, go over their head. Because any teacher should want you to have that contact of, if they see something or something happens the night before, like when Charles would have a seizure the night before, I would send an email out to all of his teachers just so they would know, hey, he's going to be worn out today and stuff. So the contact is major.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I was fortunate. My daughter Lydia, when she started having her seizures, because I had seizures, I was like, okay, so what do we do now? Because I had my history, my seizures, and so I was like, I wasn't freaked out or anything because I knew what epilepsy was, and so I already said my first thing was, she's not going to be in an epilepsy box, I'm going to help her to succeed the best I know how. And then unfortunately she got autism too. And then because she had autism, she was a runner. And then of course, she left us too soon, because I would have wanted her to have been able to do some of the things that your kids have done, because that's what I wanted to do. When I was a teenager, I wanted to write a letter, and I wanted to be one of those kids who went and told their story and stuff like that. That was my dream as a kid with epilepsy. But I don't think they had anything like that when I was a teenager. But
No, Karen, no, we certainly didn't, but you continue to tell your story now, and you make a difference in other people's lives. So we appreciate that very much. And I know for each one of you, just continue to raise awareness for epilepsy and help bring it out of the shadows, bring it out of the closet to where that, we just need so many more individuals to step up and speak out like, you have, for your children and with your children. And you truly have made a difference in their schools in educating the faculty, staff, and the students. And Clay, I'm just so proud of Jackson, because I remember going to the school several times, going to his school and talking, to his, the faculty there, and help to advocate for Jackson, and to see him in college now, and especially in the engineering program, and to know that, he's doing it his way, and that is just incredible. And then to see Charles, and all the success he's had in high school, and then now to carry that on, to be at U of L and to be working towards his goals,
Yeah, and I didn't share, his major is actually neuroscience. And so it's kind of come tenfold for him. And we've not announced it out yet, but this is a small, let's say, but he was actually one of, well, I mean, he doesn't care. Like, people know, a lot of people on here know, but he was one of 17 students that actually has gotten into a medicine program at University of Louisville. And so when it comes to medical school, he wants to be a pediatrician in some sort of field. He won't have to apply at University of Louisville. And so
he's automatically accepted.
Yes, he's automatically accepted. He does like 2 hours a week at the hospital and stuff. He's on the right track. But like I said, if it hadn't been for the foundation, I don't know where we would be.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be good at that because he's been there and done that and got the t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Laureen, I have had the privilege of meeting Ashley, Allison's caregiver and care manager. I don't know what care manager, whatever her title is.
I know, but she's my guardian angel. That's why I don't know what I want to call it. She's a caregiver. She's a direct support provider, a DSP, basically. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is wonderful to see them together and to interact with each other. And so, and Sonya, thank you so much, for sharing Braden's story and being part of the Epilepsy Foundation team and helping so many others that, are living with epilepsy. And, we're grateful to have you, and just feel truly blessed. And so
it's a pleasure. And like I was telling you, I lost my job during the pandemic earlier this year. Well, in August, we lost funding at my last job. So when Braden was diagnosed with epilepsy, I knew nothing about the foundation, which was crazy. So I actually found this position in the foundation just from doing my own research on the internet and kind of just Googling some things. And somebody kind of told me like, hey, the foundation is looking for a social worker. And I'm like, what? That would be awesome. So I applied and here I am. So I know, in my opinion, everything happens for a reason. So I'm here now to not only support my son, but to support everybody else impacted with epilepsy. And it's just an amazing fit. And I'm very excited about it. So
awesome.
Hopefully you'll see me for a long time.
I'm excited to have you on there because I know so many families really need the services that you provide. So they really do.
Absolutely. It makes me happy to hear from you all, to know that you all have been supported and appreciate the foundation and are getting something out of it, and it's helping your family. So that makes me happy to be working for a foundation like that.
I couldn't even put it into words how much Deb has meant to me. I couldn't put it into words, and everything they've done. And Beth, I can't forget about Beth.
Well,
you too, Beth.
Yeah,
No, forget about me. It's fine. No,
Beth, you came to the elementary school back when Allison was in elementary school, back God, I don't even remember when, before 2009, because she was ornery then, probably about 2009. You came to the elementary school and did Seizure Smart training, back then. So, long time ago.
Hey, she does really important things like the art group and stuff back.
She does. Yeah.
And
And
that's
if
really
it wasn't
important.
for Beth, we wouldn't be able to provide all of our trainings
Making me blush.
and groups and different things like that and panels like this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think we're a small
Yes,
team,
we
but we
definitely
each
love
have our strengths and we each provide a big role at the foundation, even though we're a small but mighty team. But I do want to thank everyone tonight for sharing your stories and for allowing others out there to just kind of hear what it's like. I think we'll be putting this on YouTube, and I think this will be a session that people can watch and realize they're not alone as a parent of a child with epilepsy. So again, thank you. I know that it was emotional, and I know there were a lot of things about it that are hard to talk about, but you guys are great advocates for your kids and have been great advocates for your children. And I just so appreciate you sharing the story with others through this platform. So thank you so very much. And it's almost time. Does anybody have any more questions? Got time for about one more. No? All right then. Well, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and let you all go, and we'll be in touch soon. So thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes,
Take
happy
care.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
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 Thank you.